Everyone's heard of global warming, it's widely publicised. However, there is another byproduct of carbon emissions which is less well known, but equally sinister. That's the phenomena of ocean acidification. I'm here at the British Antarctic Survey to talk to Colleen Suckling, a researcher in this area, to try and delve in deeper and find out exactly what ocean acidification is. Colleen, welcome. Although less prominent in the media, oceanic acidification is sometimes referred to as global warming's evil twin. But what exactly is oceanic acidification?
Well, global warming is occurring due to the increase of greenhouse gases, such as carbon dioxide, being released into the atmosphere from burning fossil fuels. Our oceans have absorbed up to half of that carbon dioxide since the Industrial Revolution. Now this is upsetting the finely tuned chemical balance of seawater by making it more acidic. And this process, known as ocean acidification, has some severe implications on important marine organisms in the sea by hindering their ability to grow and build shells and skeletons. Now if you consider the size of the Earth and look over the entire surface, over 70% of the Earth's surface is covered in seawater. So you can understand that this is a huge problem.
Despite apparent consensus for global warming, there are still two very highly entrenched camps, often quoting and counter-quoting certain figures. What's the actual evidence, therefore, for ocean acidification?
Well, scientists have been directly measuring carbon dioxide in the atmosphere within the last 50 years, since the notion that the oceans might be absorbing the carbon dioxide. They've also been measuring carbon dioxide in tiny, tiny air bubbles trapped in sea ice and glaciers to see what was happening further back in time. Now, what they have found is that for several thousands of years, carbon dioxide levels remained relatively constant. But since the Industrial Revolution, there has been a sharp increase in the amount of carbon dioxide. Now, since previous times, carbon dioxide is 30% more abundant in the atmosphere, and it's predicted to triple its former value by the end of the century. So scientists are now measuring carbon dioxide in the oceans, and what they're finding is since the onset of the Industrial Revolution and the increase of burning fossil fuels and therefore carbon dioxide, they have found that the oceans are becoming more acidic. In the Atlantic Ocean, in a little time frame of 16 years, they have noticed a change in the pH. They have noticed that the oceans are becoming more acidic. Now, field studies are suggesting that in areas where there is naturally high levels of carbon dioxide, that there is a severe lack of important marine calcifiers, such as sea urchins. And they've also noted damage to shells of some other ecologically important organisms. Furthermore to this, laboratory experiments mimicking predicted conditions for climate change have shown a range of detrimental effects to these organisms, and this is occurring in a very, very big range of animals. But the problem is the full impact of ocean acidification and its impacts on potential effects on ecosystems and fisheries are still not fully known.
Okay. If it is due to carbon emissions, as you say, why does this acidification not feature heavily in climate talks such as Kyoto or Copenhagen or any other UN framework on climate change? Why is it always in the background?
Okay, well, Kyoto protocols and the Copenhagen summits are good examples to use. Now, ocean acidification is a relatively new science. It's only come into the limelight within the last 10 to 15 years. Today, what we have learnt so far about ocean acidification is huge, but not nearly enough. When the Kyoto Protocol started, this was still in the early days of ocean acidification, so it wasn't covered very much. But today it's a very different story. At the end of last year, the Copenhagen summit met and had a whole section dedicated to discussing the implications of ocean acidification due to the strong and dramatic evidence that we have of it today.
If there is such a danger to our oceans, what's actually being done about it?
Not in a nutshell, not nearly enough. Okay, emissions of CO2 have been reduced, but not nearly enough. Technology is well underway for creating renewable and much greener technology to provide energy for us. There are many campaigns currently underway to try and get the public to rethink their lifestyles and go down a greener path. Researchers are still carrying out research on climate change to try and gain a better understanding of its implications, but the message of act now is still not getting out there. What is of real big concern is that if we were to cut all of our emissions today, we still have a burden of CO2 still in the atmosphere. Our oceans will still absorb this carbon dioxide and still become more acidic in years to come. So at this stage, what we can do is reduce our emissions and try and conserve our biodiversity, conserve our resources, and conserve our economy.
Why is the British Antarctic Survey interested in this, in ocean acidification?
Okay, well, Antarctica is one of the last places that humans have had physical contact with, but it's one of the most sensitive to climate change. The freezing temperatures here allow much more carbon dioxide to be absorbed into the seawater, and this is making the seawater much, much more acidic. This therefore makes Antarctica one of the first places to manifest the physical effects of climate change. Now, my research is the first of its kind to investigate long-term implications of future acidification conditions, and I'll be looking at growth, metabolism and reproduction of ecologically important Antarctic organisms. If organisms are as sensitive as what scientists are showing across the world in short-term experiments, then this gives us some great concern about the survival of the species in Antarctica. Now, in this environment, development is 10 times slower than in warmer regions of the world. And if organisms are to adapt to this changing climate through reproduction, their future is highly questionable. The food web surrounding Antarctica is uniquely specialised above and below the sea surface. And if there's any interruption to this, this could spell disaster for not only the Antarctic's communities and food webs, but also across the globe.
Colleen, thank you very much.
Thank you.